Welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the journey through and the defining moments that shape our strength. Today's guest is Suzy May, financial educator, head educator, planner, which learner, and host of the Wander World School podcast. Suzy helps families turn their travel dreams and educational goals into reality while building financial plan that reduce stress and create freedom. Or from realizing that she didn't want to live boxed into an unfulfilling job to designing a life rich in travel and experience for our family. Suzy's story is a masterpiece in vision, courage, and practical financial planning. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, Suzy.
Thank you so much, Ara. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, Suzy, you said your defining challenge was not wanting to live boxed in your job. That wasn't fulfilling. Can you share the moment about that particular?
Yes. I was working in healthcare for many, many years, and it is
Yeah.
a career field I'm very passionate about. I love helping people. Now I do that just in a different way. But in healthcare, you tend to work shift work, and you don't always get the schedule you want. And it's very demanding while you are working. And so for years, I was working jobs where I didn't have very much freedom. And then when I had children, I decided, freedom is very important to me. Being able to create my own schedule, being able to work when I'm most interested in the type of work I'm doing is also very freeing. Also, I just really wanted that flexibility to be with my kids when I needed to. I had a job where if they were sick, I was just dreading, do I call in? Who's going to stay home with them? And I just felt my kids are sick. I need to be there for them, not worrying about work. So we saved up as much money as we can over a few years. And that allowed me to cut back on work so that we have some flexibility. And my husband works remotely, which if there's any opportunity for people to find remote work, that also offers a ton of flexibility. I mean, it is still work. It still has to be done during a certain time frame, but we can do it from different locations, which has allowed us the opportunity to travel more. So I would say, though, when I realized that my work was not as flexible as I wanted and it was not providing me the opportunities to take care of myself and my family, I knew that I had to switch.
Wow, that was really lovely. The fact that, yes, you're part of the system for now, running day to day, running around, and at one point you're like, oh, I think I would like the fact that having to stay home and having the time and choosing the work I want to do and choosing what time to get started. Yeah, it's amazing. So what were the first step you took to move from the dreams to actionable planning?
Wait, say that again?
So what were the first step you took to move from the dreams to actionable planning?
Yes, very good question, because I think it is important to dream. It is important to start with that pie in the sky. What do I want for my life? What does my family want for our life together? And then once you have that vision, you can start to put some plans into place. And I really focus on the financial and logistical parts of that on my podcast because it is financially and logistically challenging to design the life we love. It just takes time and effort. So the financial planning piece might come with saving so that you have an extra savings that you can live off of while you transition to different types of work, or you can take a gap year or take time off as a family. The logistical part is learning from others that have done it. There are people that have taken time off, that have traveled, that have lived in different countries. So when you can connect with them, and of course, there's a lot on social media that makes everything look wonderful. And I know that's not always the case. That is why I also like to talk about the challenges of traveling families, moving abroad, finding a life we love. It's not always easy, but it is worthwhile. And so if we can focus first on figuring out the financial pieces, this is where, as a financial educator, we can come up with a savings plan. We can come up with an investment plan. We can come up with ways to build other streams of income. And then the logistical side is just making it, figuring out how to make it fit what your family streams are.
Wow, that was really lovely and really hold up a robust plan at the background. To actually make it out, a dreams comes true. I think it's the lovely part to make reference of social media, being that there are a whole lot of hype in social media sometimes that just make it feel as though, which when you have the dreams you love, there is no level of commitment. And I think from here, it just shows that, yes, it's the dream you love, but still there are levels of commitment and a whole lot of planning that need to be done. So how do you approach building a family center or financial plan?
Yeah. So financial planning is really individual to the person. And so this is why I think it's so important to work one-on-one with someone It obviously depends in your country of origin, what the financial system is, where someone is located, and then also where they're traveling to. And I recognize that there's a lot of financial privilege and passport privilege, and some people are going to have different opportunities that others don't. I still think there's ways to make meaningful travel work for any family from wherever location they are, if that's something that they're interested in. And it's also okay if traveling to far-flung locations is not feasible or not of interest to your family. There are ways to take a global mindset, even in your home country, in your home location, where you learn about different parts of the world or different cultures or different communities, or you incorporate language into your family. And there's ways to do that very affordably and very inexpensively. And then, if and when you can save up some money and build some travel into your life, then there's that opportunity to go and experience other parts of the world. And we call that world schooling. I mean, there's lots of ways to world school, but one of those, especially with children, is where you can take learning on the go. And instead of learning about the world in a textbook, you're learning about it by being in that location and experiencing the sights and the sounds and the foods and the culture and the history. And I think that can be really beneficial for children, especially, with so many different opportunities for media access. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff out there. But on YouTube, you can watch channels that are educational and insightful and really highlight different cultures and communities. And it is a way to get inspiration and also learn about the world, even if travel is not accessible right now. But again, with the right financial plan, building up some savings, having some other streams of income, online income, remote work, all those things mean that if you can travel, you're really just, especially if you can slow down, if you can travel long-term and slow-term, then you can swap expenses. You're going to spend money on food and accommodations and things at your home country. If you can swap those and now be in a new location, you get to experience new things. Your family gets to see new and exciting things while still possibly spending the same amount that you would at your home country. Food, accommodations. There's things like home exchange or pet sitting or house sitting that can also reduce those expenses. Traveling, if you have access to credit card points. Also, there are people who find road trips to be very affordable. Especially if you're doing the RV van life, you can see lots of nature, lots of the world, and have your home and your stuff right with you. So there's very creative ways to incorporate travel for all different price points.
Yeah, amazing, lovely. And I think it's the fact that I just make reference of different country, per culture, different way of actually more like looking at it. So can you walk us through your Wander financial tracker and how did it help family gain clarity?
Yeah, absolutely. So I talk about the 6-part Wander financial framework, and I have a workbook for that, and I can work individually with families. But it's really about starting with where you're at, understanding your current expenses and tracking that, and removing any shame or emotions that come with that, or just recognizing that there are feelings that can come with expenses. We all have money scripts. We all have things that we've learned as a child and as a young adult about money, and that shows up in how we think about money as an adult and how we utilize money. But money is just a tool for us to design the life we want. And sometimes there's gaps there that we had to fill in with extra education or work and things like that, or other ways to cut and save. But once we understand what our current monthly expenses are, we can think, okay, what income can come with me? Can I rent out my house? Do I have a remote job? Do I have income that can come with me on my travels? And then if there is a gap between how much let me also backtrack. Then we can also look at where you want to go and what those estimated costs would be in that location. And then you can say, okay, I need, my reference point is US dollars. So let's say you need 3,000 US dollars to be in a country for a month or 2 or 3 at a time, and you have income that supports that. You're ready to go. If there's a gap there, can you increase your income or can you save to fill that gap? And it's just coming up with a plan that works for you. And sometimes travel takes time to plan for. Maybe we're talking a year or 2 from now when your family and your kids are a little bit older or you really know where you want to go. But if you can start planning now, you can start saving, setting money aside, making strong financial choices now to maybe cut your housing expenses, roommates, ways that you can save here and now. Also increasing income, getting another job, a side job, starting an online business, lots of different ways that you can both increase income and decrease expenses to help you save and get ready for the trip that you're planning.
Amazing. A whole lot of feelings is being attached when it comes to reviewing your financial spaces and a whole lot of stuff being that most times they have to learn when it comes to finances. That did it back to where we're growing up, with the kind of system our families and yeah, it's really a whole lot, and it's really amazing. And yeah, being able to kind of curate what your monthly spend is, so that you could actually ascertain what the amount might be subsequent
Exactly.
month if you want to get to travel. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Also, how do you balance the day-to-day expenses with long-term travel and lifestyle?
Yeah, that's very important because I think that there is, of course, a need to plan and save for the future, for retirement,
Yeah,
because most of us don't want to work until the day we die. We do want
yeah,
some time off at some point. That is very much part of a typical life cycle. Saying that, we also know that tomorrow's not a given and that it is important to live today in the best and fullest way we can and make sure that today is enjoyable as well. So there's this tug between saving and planning for the future while also making the best of today. And I don't
yeah,
think that those need to conflict with each other. We can usually find balance where it is both finding ways to enjoy and be present today with our family, with our friends, with all the things that are important to us today, while also coming up with a financial goal for the future. So some
yeah.
people find that early on when they get really excited or before they have kids or family, they can save more at that point. Maybe they're okay having roommates when they're younger and they can save up as much as possible. And then expenses shift if you have a family. It can cost more to even do your basic things, and kids can add up in different ways. And so as your needs shift, you can shift how much you're saving and how much you're spending now. But if you can get a strong foundation of those financial skills, tracking your expenses, tracking your income, working on increasing your income, you can make incremental progress towards your goals while enjoying today.
Amazing, amazing. I think the system is really robust, being that you're thinking about enduring today, and then you're sensitive of what the future holds and what to plan, so that at one point or the other, you won't be caught up with surprise that, oh, I didn't plan for that. Yeah, it's amazing. So tell us about Wonder World School podcast. What inspired you, and what can my listener expect?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to start a podcast years and years ago. And of course, just like saving and investing, the best time to start was 20 years ago. The second best time
Yeah.
is today. And so
Yeah.
of course we can always look back and say, "Oh, I wish I had started earlier," or
Um,
"I wish I had done things differently." Hindsight is 2020, saying for a reason. But the second best time is today. So the second best time was, well, for me last year. I said, "I'm finally going to do this. I'm going to start a podcast." I wanted to focus on both the family travel space as well as on financial preparation, the logistical piece of family
yeah.
travel, because there's a lot to it. And there's so many different ways that families are traveling. Some are taking your typical vacations over summer breaks. Some are all the way up to full-time traveling, 8+ years of travel.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot in between there too. Some people take extended time over the summer, or they start with a test trip that lasts for 1 month. And then they say, we like this. Let's keep going. And they find ways to make it work, both on the
Yeah.
reducing expenses and the increase in income side. And so it really just starts with hearing other stories. And that's what I wanted to share on the podcast. Because when we hear stories about families that either look like us
Yeah.
or maybe similar age kids or similar values, and then we're like, hey, they're doing some cool things. Again, it's really important to make sure that you're doing things that align with you and your family and stuff that you're actually interested in, not just, oh, I saw someone went to this place and it looked really cool. So our family has identified a couple of values around travel and languages and activities like skiing that are worth our time and effort and money. And then when I see something like some families going on cruises, which is totally fine, but it's just not,
Yeah.
we've decided, a value of ours. I just don't think you get as much cultural immersion. Obviously, things like that can be really fun, but there are other ways to incorporate fun with cultural immersion. So again, people are doing it all different ways. And just because I see families doing cool things doesn't necessarily mean I need to always do the same thing. But the more stories I hear, the more I can get this perspective that it is possible that I can do something similar, or I can do something that aligns with what our values as a family are by hearing stories. And so I've been able to share over 40 plus traveling family
Oh,
stories and world schooling, all different types and family sizes and fits and ages of kids. I just think it's really cool to shine a light, just like with your podcast, right? Shining a light on other
yeah.
people's stories is really fun. I like being behind the
Yeah.
mic as much as I like talking about all these things as well as a guest. I think it's really fun to shine a light on the different opportunities to travel as a family, school, And I've had people from all different countries. Certainly, it's an English-based audience, but we've had people from, all different countries. And so I think that's
Wow.
a way to get inspired and say, this is not just something that people from certain countries. And again, like I said, I know that there are certain aspects that make travel more difficult for people from different countries, just financially or passport challenges. But even within someone's home country, there's ways to travel and experience new things if we find that it's important to us.
Yeah, amazing. This is really lovely. Definitely, I'm going to jump on it being that. Yeah, I think those stories most times just are heightening the fact that make it much evident with the layers of conviction that yes, this is possible. If Mr. A could do it, why earning this particular amount of money, I can do it too. Yeah, that's really amazing. So lastly, any advice for family who feel overwhelmed about planning long-term travel or education?
Yeah. My first advice would be to take a test trip. So, again, think about what would be important to you and your family when it comes to family travel. Maybe there's a cultural or ethnic heritage that is important to your family that you'd like to visit that country or that family lineage. Or maybe there's some books and stories that you love from a certain country. Or maybe you love nature and there are some amazing world-class hikes in this location. Or beach is your thing and you do not live anywhere near a beach, so you have to travel to it. So identifying what's important to you and your family would be the first step. And then know that you can start small and build from there. So if you start a test trip, let's say 2 to 3 weeks in one location, maybe that is long enough. Like if you have a home in your home base, that you can practice renting it out or having people stay there while you're gone, and then they pay you some for those expenses. So, or you look into home exchange or different ways. Maybe you know someone that lives in that location and they want to stay at your house while you stay at their house. And now you're just swapping those expenses. Think about creating a budget for wherever you're traveling to and build in some buffer for emergencies or things that come up that you didn't always expect, right? And then on your trip, have a good time. Talk about as a family what you experienced, what worked well, what your vision and goals would be for a future long-term or slow travel trip. And just keep building on the skills that you're attaining as you go through each of these test trips and you find what works for you and your family. And I will say, to go back to the last question, I was just thinking with the podcasting, selfishly, I also get to learn a lot from my guests about how they are designing family travel or world schooling opportunities. And so someday I would like to offer world schooling hubs. I do some pop-ups, so we do 7-day locations. But when I get to talk to these amazing people doing cool things, I get inspiration as well so that I can put together opportunities for traveling families in the future. So I think it's this reciprocal relationship with podcasting where I learn and I can improve as a person and as a podcast host and as a traveling family and a mom, but I can also turn around and put these interviews out there into the world to provide inspiration for other people.
Yeah, I think this is a really lovely thing that sometimes we don't even know what we know until we start talking about it. We start hearing a lot of stories about it. It creates more conviction and creates more like our possibility of what is possible and in terms of this is really amazing. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
So Suzy, from our audience who would love to actually explore that particular aspect, would love to reach out to you, a consumer of your content, so reach out to you either for your book or for coaching sections. How can they reach out and where's the best platform?
Yes, I would encourage everyone to start with the podcast, Wander World School, helping families plan and fund long-term and slow family travel. So that is on all podcast players and on YouTube. And my website is SuzyMayWander.com. I do one-on-one financial education for families. And then I also just released an ebook. So if someone has a home in their home base and they want to keep it because they want to stay in that location long term, but they want to travel in the meantime, I designed, we've been renting out our home base home for 4 years. So I put together an ebook that is packed with all sorts of information about how to set up your listing, how to get ready for your house, how to hide your valuables and the things that are important to you, how to set up your system so that you can rent out your house while you're gone. And we found that that helps cover that expense so that we can go do cool things as a family. And so I think it's great to put together these resources for families from the things that I'm hearing from my audience would be helpful for them and using some of the knowledge that I have as well. But I'd love for people to join me over on the Wander World School podcast. It's a great place to start.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your journey, or your practical insights today, or from realizing you really want to be boss in the life to empowering family with actionable financial plan that make travel meaningful. meaningful experience possible. Your story is both inspiring and, instructive. And I must say, it's a really pleasure and honor to have you on the show.
Great. Thank you so much, Hara. I really appreciated your time.